welcome to episode number 6 of the Princeton Makes podcast. Yay! If you don't know us yet, Princeton Makes is an artist co-op, and we are about 30 artists that sell here at our store at the shopping center. Some of us have a studio here too. It's a great space, we love it. I'm your host, Zohar Lavi-Hasson, and I'm one of the artists here, and I'm very happy to host April Zay here. Hi, April.
Hi, how are you?
April is the artist of the month here at Princeton Makes, and that means she has her art in the window, and also she has an artist talk. When is your artist talk?
It's Thursday, March 16th.
So everybody's welcome.
Yes.
Maybe we'll start with just telling us what kind of art do you make?
Yes, so I actually identify as a oil painter, but I've recently moved into more mixed media arts. I'm a teaching artist as well, so I teach a lot of my art forms. I work in origami, paper quilling, a lot of paper, but my primary love is oil painting.
Can you share a little bit about your background? How did you get to be an artist?
Yes, so I wanted to be an artist from maybe 4th grade. When I was little, I was always drawing and painting, just coloring with chalk. And then when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, I had this epiphany that I could make a living as an artist. So I had a dream that I would one day have a house with a big valley, and I would sit out and paint with an easel and have horses and just live the life, a glamorous life as an artist.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I decided to pursue art, and it was a little difficult because my parents, my dad's a physicist, my mom's a math teacher, everybody's math and science. I said, I want to be an artist, and they thought that I would be a starving artist, and they really didn't understand anything about the art world. So I really had to really push the agenda of wanting to be an artist. So I applied to a bunch of art schools, and I was lucky enough to get into the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. And it was my last choice of schools to go to, but it was the most affordable.
Oh.
So that's the one I chose, and I actually wouldn't have done it any other way. So I went to school in New York City for illustration.
Oh.
I have a 2-year degree in illustration, and then I have a bachelor's in illustration because of the way the school worked. So when I went for school for illustration, when I started, it was a really viable market. You know, Norman Rockwell, like you think of illustration that way, there's a lot of illustration work. And by the time I graduated school, with the advent of technology, the internet, the illustration market went away completely.
Oh, because you can do clip art.
Yeah, because it was replaced with clip art, things like that. So, but I was very fortunate when I graduated, the job market was still good, so I was able to get into graphic design. So my first job out of college was working right in Lawrenceville. That's how I got to New Jersey. I worked in Lawrenceville for Lenox China.
Okay.
And that's when they had their corporate offices there, and I did production art. But I learned how to do packaging design. So when products would go to market, I would attend photo shoots, and I would put then on the computer all of the photos of the products on the boxes with the logo, lay it out, make a design to go in the store. And from there, I moved to, I was a graphic design manager at a company called Artland in Dayton, New Jersey. And Artland makes, again, glassware, things like that. So I had a lot of packaging for products in Wegmans, Target, lots of things. I actually did a little product design when I was at Artland, so I had some product made. And I like that, but then I just decided I don't want to work 9 to 5 in a cubicle. I got tired of going to trade shows and seeing all this beautiful art that other people were making, and I was just, placing art on boxes, and I really wanted to make my own art.
Yeah.
So I decided actually in 2006 to start a business, Hummingbird Art Studio, and in 2007 I quit my full-time job, and I started teaching art to make money to support my passion of doing art. And I started doing commission work, pet portraits specifically, and just kind of anything. And so I still freelance and do graphic design, but that's sort of how I got back. I, did some corporate design, and then I got back into doing my love of painting.
Wow, brave move.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but I've really become more established. But there were moments when I was like, should I go big or go home? And so I've always chosen the go big part.
So your family supported you in that move.
Yeah, I mean, I have my husband has always been supportive, you know, and another reason which I chose to start the business was really to be flexible, to have a family. And that was another thing. So I wanted the ability to freelance, set my own hours, and have that capability of having a family.
Yeah. How did you get to Princeton Makes?
Oh, yes. So this is a great story.
Okay.
I am probably one of the original artists. I might be the first original artist, along with Jim Levine, who started this vision. Jim had reached out, I think, to area artists about having a meeting to see if it was possible to create a co-op. And I had found an email, and I'm very much, and talking to me, you'll find out, I'm very much in the moment. I jump on opportunities as I see them. And then maybe once I jump on them, investigate, I'll decide to move forward. So I had seen an email from somebody that I know, another artist, and it was saying that this man, Jim Levine, was going to have a meeting at the Princeton Shopping Center on a certain date, like an open house, to discuss the possibility of an art co-op or a space to sell art. And I said, that's great. I want to sell art. I made an effort to show up to the shopping center. It was really towards the middle to end of COVID. Nobody's here. Empty building. Here's Jim. We go in.
Nobody came?
Nobody came.
Oh,
I was
really?
the only one.
Wow.
And he had donuts out and everything. So I chatted with him, and I was like, I don't know if I was looking in the empty shopping center. There's nothing. It's 5,000 square feet of just empty. The walls were like pink, and it was just... And I was like, I have no idea. I don't know how this can happen. So I talked to Jim, and he's like very happy that I showed up. And it turns out I was the only one that showed up the day.
Oh, wow.
And if I had not showed up, he was ready to just give up.
Wow.
So I chatted with him, and I took my number, and I walked away, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. And he called me probably 2 or 3 weeks later, and I'm like, who is this guy calling me? I'd forgotten about it. And he's like, I've gotten a couple people on board. Are you still interested? I'm like, okay, I'll see. So then I came back, and I met with Jim, Adriana, Eloisa, and I think one other woman who started, and that was it. It was the 4 of us, and we were chatting, and I met Adriana for the first time, and I thought, oh, I don't know. This is interesting. And then we were talking about moving in furniture from across the street.
Yeah.
I was hesitant along the way, but I sort of stuck it out, and I'm glad I did. It's been the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But I always joke that Jim was ready to throw in the towel if I hadn't.
You are the reason that we're here. Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe you can tell us about like a day or a week in your life.
Yeah. So I have... it took me a while to define my business. So I get pulled in a lot of different directions, get easily distracted, because as any artist, I'm always wanting to do more, grow more, make more stuff. As any artist, I want to have more studio time, but I find that there's a lot of things that pull on me, that take me out of the studio. So I get up very early because my kids, they go to school here in Princeton. So
how early?
I'm up about 6:40, 6:30.
Okay,
I get up at 6:30.
Yeah.
We're out of the house at 7:20. So pre-pandemic, I would do a lot of programs and workshops outside of the house, and I had a studio outside my house. So during the pandemic, I got more into getting up, getting the kids out of the house, and then having about an hour or two to myself in the morning to get dressed, take a shower, eat breakfast, that kind of thing, and then I sort of start my day. So that the couple hours in the morning are very valuable to me now. I've kind of gotten used to that. So a typical day would be trying to get a little bit of studio time in the morning between, say, 8 and 10, and then I usually teach students, private students, so I might either have a class or one singular student during the day, maybe from 10 to 12.
So it's adult students?
I have a homeschool student that I might see. I have a couple of college students. Right now I'm transitioning into working with adults with disabilities. So I'm doing a adaptive arts class for adults with disabilities. Sometimes preschool, so sometimes I'll go and do a preschool in the morning and do programming. And then, middle of the day, I might have lunch, switch gears. depending on the day, sometimes I'll have studio time, in the early afternoon. Sometimes I'll be teaching. Right now I'm teaching for the first time in a long time, I'm teaching a regular class every day of the week over at the Princeton Charter School. I do digital photography.
Okay.
And that's only for like 14 weeks.
So you're also a photographer?
Yes.
You're kidding?
No. Then I pick my kids up. And then I have students after school,
So what do your kids do?
Well,
how old are your kids?
So my kids right now are 9 and 13. In the past, sometimes they would have done aftercare, but a lot of times the students come to my house for the lessons. So now that they're a little bit older, I can travel, but a lot of students will come to my house. So I help high school students with portfolio prep. And then every week is different. Some weeks I do residency programs. Next week I'll be doing a program for the Princeton Symphony Orchestra, where I'll be instructing middle school kids on how to interpret music and interpret a visual arts piece based on listening to music. So we're doing a practice piece, and then they'll be doing something. So my hardest thing with balance is 3 things. One is sometimes I want to work through the afternoon and evening, but I have my kids, so a lot of it's stopping and, okay, I've got to pick my kids up. They've got Tuesday night, they've got this event. So balancing that need for my kids. And that's always been, even when they were younger, if I had workshops, maybe I'm usually home on Wednesdays, but one Wednesday I have a workshop. Do I have childcare for my son or my kids that day? So that's always been the balance with the kids. The second balance is teaching pays the bills, so to speak. It's a very lucrative, I show up, I teach, I get paid for my time, and it's great. But it takes me out of the studio. So I'm teaching and sharing, but then I'm not creating art myself. Before I had children, I painted more. But when I had my kids, I made the decision that I would switch to a commission-only creation system. So around the holidays, maybe somebody will say to me, I want a pet portrait, a portrait of my dog. Then I will build that into my week or 2 weeks, and I will create a painting for somebody. So that's sort of work, that's paid work. So that gets a time slot. And then, they buy it, they take it home, it's done. But very recently, I've just started getting back to creating my own work for myself.
Yeah.
And
because I was going to ask, is that fulfilling? Is that like enough for you as an artist, just doing commissions?
No, so that's why I wanted to get back into doing more expressive work. But see, with the degree in illustration is about commercial art. Like, illustration is about taking somebody's idea and translating that into a piece of artwork to create the illustration. It either goes with a story or it goes with a client, what they need. So I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm used to that sort of the idea with that. So I actually do find it fulfilling to bring joy to people.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, they've lost their pet, I create this work, they give it maybe as a gift to somebody, and they'll tell me this was the best gift they've ever given. It's something that brings joy to other people. So that I find fulfillment in that.
No, I totally understand. I never wanted to make, plates and mugs and put them in my closet.
Yeah.
Always wanted people to have them. So I totally get that.
So, but Princeton Makes is actually something that has made that possible, because since I've been here, I've created 3 or 4 pieces that I'm really proud and put a lot of myself into, whereas I had gone many years without having any of those pieces. So I'm really trying to find that balance in the past year or 2. So a lot of that for me is letting go of things to make space for that. And so if for having years of hustling and always trying to get the next job, I'm so used to the idea of bringing in that it's training myself now to say no, to say I have enough of those classes or programs, and then, saying no to that and making space to make art.
You say no to commissions as well?
Not so much commissions, but it's more like the teaching the students, people, do you teach private art lessons? And in the past it would have been like, sure, I can squeeze you in at, 3:00 on a Tuesday. Right. Now I'm like, what, I don't want to anymore, and I don't need to.
That's good that you can, afford it. And also that you have the assertiveness to say.
Yeah, that's hard. But the reason I can start to afford it is because as I've gone along, I've made decisions to go with more substantial residency programs or things that take up less time but pay more because they're paying more for my expertise or my time. One of the programs I'm doing now is actually mentoring preschool teachers and Head Start programs in Philadelphia on how to integrate arts into the classroom. And this is a program where I'm getting paid to write lesson plans, to work with teachers, and it's a very short place where I used to maybe teach 3 or 4 preschool classes for the same amount of money and be twice as busy and planning and prepping. So now I'm making conscious decisions. Where can I impart my skill, my knowledge, my art skills, and still have an income there? And then,
So we talked about balance with the kids a little bit. So tell me if you also feel this, because I also have kids and have this issue. So you talked about the technical part of balancing, that you need to find care and where the kid's going to be while you teach. But what about like the emotional part? Is that an issue for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of household management that comes into too, and sometimes I feel like I'm carrying the emotional work, like the emotional load of everybody in the household, being the mom, being a woman, and being more sensitive to everybody's needs. I have these days where, like, the other day, I was feeling already at my capacity to do all the things I needed to do, write emails to clients or to be certain places, and I was just feeling very overloaded. And then I get an email from my son's teacher, oh, your son's, his research, and he's only 9, but his research report is due tomorrow at the end of the day, and he's doing better, but he's not where he needs to be yet. So can you just go ahead tonight and help him write this, help him finish this? And this is because with my younger son, I've been struggling to keep it, like, help him maintain focus, coming off the pandemic, having had the kids, and especially the kids my son was kindergarten through 3rd grade during this pandemic, So the teachers' expectations are still where they should be for kids that would in a typical year 3rd grade, but these are kids that have, been all over the place with their learning. So so the teacher asked me to do that. So there's a lot of that sort of, or I just want to come home and I want to relax. And then, my son comes in and he's like, you want to play with me? You never play with me. Let's play a card game. And I'm like,
oh, my kids are like that.
Yeah. And I feel bad, and I want to be there, and I want to be there for them. And I feel like sometimes they don't see they don't see the things that I do on the backside to make sure that they have a really great life, and the things that I do for them. So, and, and I want to make sure they see that I'm working. But yeah, there's a lot of emotional, just, I feel like my spouse, he has, an office job, can go into work and and it would be the same. It's not a gender thing necessarily. I mean, if I had an office job, I feel like I could go in an office, sit down, sort of disengage from home. Home is here, and just do that, 9 to 5 kind of thing and come home and be done. And as an artist or teaching artist, I have students that I connect with and they need things from me. Maybe they're doing a portfolio and they need extra meeting, or maybe they have things. And so I have that emotional aspect of my students' needs. And then I have my kids' needs, and I get emails from clients at all different hours, or I'm working on a commission, or let's say I had to take the dog to the vet in the morning, or I had to take the kid to a doctor's appointment, and then I have to, like, switch what I'm doing. I have the flexibility to do that, but then again, it's how do I manage my time and get back what I lost.
So do you feel guilty ever?
Yeah, sure. There's moments. I made this transition now. I have a studio at Princeton Makes. And I'm trying to not run around everywhere. So I'm trying to make the transition that I had pre-pandemic, where I can stay at the studio and work in the afternoon. And my kids are old enough that they can get off the bus and walk home, and they can be home. So I feel guilty that I'm not there right after school, that I'm not like, oh, let me check your homework. And I feel like, should I be here? Should I go home? And it's always in my mind. And then there's days when I, like, rush home, and then I find that they're, jumping on the trampoline, or they're playing together, or they don't need me. So I'm really trying to not feel guilty. But it's hard to let go of that sometimes, because I'm carrying that emotion of, do they need me? Are they going to get their homework? Are they going to eat their snack? Are they going to, are they going to, do I need to make sure that they eat because my kids would not eat if I'm not around?
Or when they eat sweets or
Oh,
something?
yeah, they would eat, yes. So they would eat. That would be the thing, right? I'd be coming home and they'd have, like, grabbed a soda from the fridge or they'd be, yeah.
And how was it when they were younger? Because at least now they can take care of themselves.
Yeah, so pre-pandemic, I have 3 stages. It's like pre-pandemic when they were younger, when they were like 3 and 6 or.
That's very young.
Yeah, when they were like, say, between 5 and 8 was like pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And so pre-pandemic, I had a studio that I rented outside of my home. Mm-hmm. And I would pick them up maybe from aftercare from school, or I'd pick them from school, or if they had days off, they would be at my studio.
Okay.
And I would be like, here is a beanbag chair, here's some snacks, here's your whatever, hang here while I teach in the other room. And it was always like a balance, Yeah. So that's what I did pre-pandemic. Then with the pandemic, we had moved and we were home. And then it was like, how do I manage home schooling, online schooling, meeting with my clients, getting my work done. At a certain point, I just had to almost give up the expectation of getting anything done in the day.
Right.
And if I got something done, it was a gift.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it was like, Mom, you need to be here. Or I would just wake up and be exhausted. I'd make breakfast, but I'd be like, I don't even feel like getting out of my pajamas and like tackling the day. Or I would think, okay, I'm going to do this art piece. And then it's like someone's sick or they're just, And my house I didn't realize my home studio, my house now is a room, but it's very connected with the whole house. And there's no door and the sound carries through the house, and it's very distracting. Yeah. And that's why I'm at Princeton Makes now, because I need like a separate space that's not distracting. So
you have two boys?
Yes, 2 boys.
Oh,
they're
loud.
They're loud, yes. And during the pandemic, the kids would call each other on their tablets. Yeah. And just always, so there's always felt like there was 3 kids in my house or 4 kids in the house. So the pandemic was hard, and that's where I started to find, actually, which is interesting, is pre-pandemic, I felt like I took on a lot, and I was rushing around a lot and doing lots of programs and classes and really busy. Yeah. Everything stopped with the pandemic, and then I came to this balance of finding my calm when I found feelings I enjoyed and being in the studio, just working, and I enjoyed that, making earrings and things. And when sort of we came out of the pandemic, I said, I don't want to go back to that craziness. Yeah. And that's what sort of led me where I am now, where I'm trying to do bigger, more meaningful work, where my time is meaningful, and then be able to go home at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and be like, I'm done.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So it's really just trying to shift everything from evening to daytime. And now in the daytime, everything's all loaded up. And then it's like, okay, now I have to just figure out how I can work. Because it's harder for me to work when I'm home with the family and everybody's home, to be like,
you want to be with them.
Yeah, you want to be with them. Or even if you don't want to be with them, I want to be in the studio working, but you can still hear and you have ear out as a mom. All the things that are going on, you're like, oh, I can see, craziness. So somebody needs to feed the dog. Nobody's going to remember to feed the dog.
So your mind is all the time, like all around the house.
Oh, it is. It's all around the house. And then that's where I feel guilty. That's where I feel like I don't feel like it's right to step away and focus. Maybe I should. Maybe I should be like, oh, you guys do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. But it's hard.
It's hard.
Because even if they're okay with it, if they're like, yeah, Mom, we don't need you, I feel like maybe I should be there or maybe I'm needed.
Because our brain is just like that. I don't mean to generalize, but it sounds like your brain and my brain are kind of similar. Yeah. Very attuned to like everybody's little things.
Yeah, and we have to. I think as moms, just that's the way that our brains are wired that way. Right. So yeah, that's the thing. So I do think it's important for the kids to see us working and understand that, like, in that capacity, because I want my children to know that it's that it's good to have a work ethic and to, so I want them to sort of see that too. Yeah. I want them to know I'm always there for them. Yeah. They have to walk home from the bus stop. They don't like it, but I'm like, it's not, you're okay. Yeah. They'll manage.
That's great. What do you think your kids think and feel about having like an artist mother?
Well, it was funny. So I do origami as part of my art form. I make origami earrings. And my son the other day comes and says, "Do you have any origami paper?" And I have drawers of origami paper.
Of course.
And then he starts interested in origami. And so right now he folds better than I do, only like a week or two into folding, because
Wow.
he's very mathematical and very scientific and very methodical. So, but he doesn't believe sometimes that I know what I'm doing as an artist. So I find it not that they take it for granted. They don't make the connection of what it is that I do in that sense. Like, I don't think they're like, wow, my mom's an artist. When my son was younger, I went to the Arts Council of Princeton, and there was a show up, and there was a lot of these really cool portraits on the wall. My son said to me, I think he was 8 or 9, he goes, "Wow, those are good." I said, "Yeah, I'm an artist too." He's like, "Yeah, but you're not that good, like these are amazing. You're not, I don't." He doesn't see that what I do. The other thing with balancing is the admin part of being an artist and doing the other stuff that goes along with it, which is your invoicing or, paying your bills or expenses and things like that. So that was another thing that I've struggled. I'll touch briefly on it. Just my hardest thing with the teaching is I want to just teach, I want to make, I want to connect. And sometimes when I work with schools or clients, they want, "Can you send me a purchase order? Can you send me an invoice? Can you price out how is this going to be?" And all the lesson and the planning. And they get bogged down in that. And if you're not careful that becomes what I say, like non-billable hours. So I make a lot of money for a workshop or a program, but some of that time then, if this is an hour or 2 hours, I maybe spend a half an hour or an hour between phone calls or just writing emails and doing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's also hard to find that time. Like if I was like, "Oh, I want to paint. I'm so excited to sit down and paint." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't answer the 6 different emails that people are asking for stuff." And that takes time. So that also pulls me out of the studio. And I think every artist struggles with that.
Oh, yeah. What do you think the percentage, I asked this Adriana too,
Okay.
Of you making art versus doing all the rest of the things that are related?
I have learned to be very efficient when I do my art. Sometimes what I've done, and it'll get into percentage, but I made a piece recently where I bought the I passed by the art store and I said, "I'm going to buy a canvas because I'm going to make a piece. I don't know when I'm going to make it, but when I go to make it, if I don't have a canvas, I will have to stop everything, go to the art store and get the canvas."
Right.
So I said, I buy the canvas. And then it sits in my studio and I stare at it for a week or two. And then I'm thinking in my brain what I'm going to do. And then when I get started, I didn't want to stop. Maybe that, piece, it'll take me a month to do the piece, but the actual time working on it may be 3 or 4 hours within that month, And so a lot of it's unbalanced, I think. There's a lot of extra time needed to spend to make it. So I don't even know how to percentage. It's off balance. I would love to be 75% art making and 25% other stuff, but I feel like it's opposite.
Right.
And I have all the great intentions. So what I've learned is that I just roll with it, and I say I'll take whatever time I can get when I get. I used to want to have I'm like, how come I never have a full day in the studio? I think Tuesday I'm going to be in the studio. Oh, I got to have a dentist appointment. I got to have the dog is sick. Oh, I got to do this.
Yeah.
Somebody calls. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to set work timers. I'm going to set an hour timer, and I'm going to do this for the hour, and then we'll see where I'm at. If I can continue on, great. If I've got to stop. So I've learned to work within that fragmented,
right.
And that's what I can do. That's all I can do.
Okay, so April, let's do the rapid questions part. I hope you're ready.
Okay, we'll try.
Yeah, let's try. So we always ask a few questions, all the artists, and we have to get like a 1 word or 2 words answer. Okay. So what is your favorite artist of all times?
Diego Rivera.
Oh, cool. What is your favorite material to create with?
Paper.
Origami.
Which is, and I've learned to now put on canvas, and I like ripping it. I like the different material with it.
What music or sound do you like to listen to when you create?
Podcasts.
No, me too. What is the space that you feel most creative in?
Oh, I would say my studio space, like either like Princeton Makes, I really enjoy creating here. Just a space that's dedicated to art.
Yeah. What's your worst artistic nightmare?
Showing up to a class of 30 students to teach something and not having materials, or just having everything fail in front of a whole bunch of expectant students.
This happened?
No, because because I'm afraid of it, I always backup plan to backup plan.
Yeah.
So I'm just afraid one day I'll just totally be lost. So.
And one word that describes how you feel when you create.
Fulfilled.
Great, I love it. All right, so before we end April, let's do some promotion.
Okay.
Where can we find you online?
So my business name is Hummingbird Arts, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook is all Hummingbird at Hummingbird Arts, and my website as well as hummingbirdarts.com.
Let's mention your artist talk again.
Yeah, so my artist talk is going to be Thursday, March 16th, and my talk is going to be my my artistic journey with a little bit more detail in things that my inspirations, and a little bit more about how I got into creating the jewelry as a side business to the paintings, and it should be fun. And I may do a little bit of demonstration, but it should be mostly just an inspirational talk.
So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, April, for being here. We have a new graphic designer for our show. It's RD. Our theme music is by Renata Pugh. And I was, and still am, Zohar Lavi-Hasson, hosting and producing and editing this podcast. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, and also if you have any question to one of our artists, to April or anyone else that you heard in this podcast, please email us to princetonmakes@gmail.com. Also, let us know if you want to be added to our mailing list. You can rate the show and share it with your friends if you think it will help them create and be inspired. We are located at the Princeton Shopping Center, and we are open Thursday to Sunday, 10 to 6. Come and support your local artists. All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.